Alrighty, well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Sawyer on Water podcast. Today we're out here on the beautiful Rogue River. Nice little morning out here on the Rogue. Birds are chirping, sun's shining. And today we are actually having a discussion with Link Jackson, aka Link Jackson Artwork is his current title, I believe, today. And we're going to talk about the Artisan Oar Series and how it came about and kind of where it's going. So, Link, why don't you give us a little intro on yourself and tell us about your latest journey.
All right. Well, I have just recently sold my baby, which was Stream Tech Boats. And I'm still somewhat involved because the new owner, Scott Pencer, has me painting fish art on boats and doing art on decks. And of course, that art passion is what got me involved in doing the Artisan Oar Series with Sawyer. As I was sitting there with Zach one day at a trade show and things got slow and quiet, my mind was wandering, daydreaming about how to do something to help save our salmon and steelhead from extinction in this age of too many dams and too much development and so on. And so I just said, hey, Zach, what if I painted a big fish and you figure out how to get it on the oars, and we'll take a portion of each oar sold and we will put it to work for the fish and the rivers. And so Zach said, yeah, let's do that. It was a real tough negotiation. So we did. We created the Sawyer Artisan Series, and I painted two paintings that are currently available on the oars, the steelhead and the Cutty Rain Brown, which is a tribute to our good friend Hank Patterson, or aka Travis Schwartz, who portrays that.
Yeah, and actually, like a lot of what you were able to bring to the whole project was also kind of the connection with a bunch of other artists. And let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go with the forward paddle.
Yeah, we had several artists I know. One of them is an old school friend named Greg Schlanger, who runs he's the dean of college in Central Washington in Ellensburg, and Ed Anderson, who's a good artist in Boise and a great guy. Tyler Halleck, who does a lot of really cool artwork in the fish world. And we all did versions of the oars, and not all of them are real prominent at the moment, but they all just got involved in the project. And then, of course, then came the idea of, well, gee, we're generating some money for this because the oars were really popular. What are we going to do with it? So I had my son Connor, who's pretty involved in conservation causes and groups, pick a group that would be the recipient, and that was Save Our Wild Salmon. And we put quite a bit of money in their direction for a while, and then of course COVID came along, and we put it towards the guide relief program in Montana for a couple of years, and then along came the notion that they were going to take out the dams on the Klamath River.
Let's hold up right there a second. So that, like, we really got all of the artists together, and you've really helped with that community. But we've kind of constantly kept a dialogue, you and I, and we've been making the decisions of kind of the next organization that we go to. Let's go ahead and go more forward.
I don't want to hit that strainer.
We don't want to hit that strainer. That's too bad. All right. And so we have kind of moved along. You know, this project's been going on for, I think it's been about 8-9 years now. And so we've been with different organizations for a few years. Save Our Wild Salmon, like I said at the beginning, and then the Guide Relief Program, then Pacific Rivers, and now we're ready to turn on to that new chapter. And you know, the Klamath River is kind of going through its process now that the dams have been removed, and you've got a lot of riverbeds changing and exploration of new rivers that haven't been explored for over 100 years. And where we're floating today is actually one of the places that the dams were taken out on the Rogue River. And so it's only appropriate that we kind of move it into the next battle. And that's where the Idaho Rivers United comes in. And so give us a little bit about Idaho Rivers United, some of the causes that they're working on, and what funds will be used.
Yeah, Idaho Rivers United is kind of a grassroots group that started in Eddy on the North Fork of the Fayette, which was under study for a dam at that point, which was going to dewater the river. I mean, it's one of the most popular Class 5 water rivers in the world. And it came about and really took off and has focused completely on freestone rivers and their corridors within the state of Idaho. And of course, that obviously plays into water quality and fish habitat and fish population, so on. And the reason I got involved in it is that I am very focused on the lower four dams on the Snake River. The Snake River Basin, which includes the Columbia, the Salmon River, all the forks of the Salmon, the Grand Ronde, the Mnaha, several other rivers.
Let's go with the forwards.
Was really the premier salmon and steelhead fishery on planet Earth. Millions and millions of fish came up into that basin. Some of the best spawning habitat in the world. And the lower four dams on the Snake are a choke point that kill most of the small smolts that head down the sea. And the reason is, of course, those fish evolved over millennia to swim nearly 1,000 miles to where they spawn. And then the smolts 2 years later would be swept to sea on the spring floods. The dams stop the water. When they stop the water warms up. That kills most of the fish. It also creates great habitat for smallmouth bass and pike minnows and other predators that really have a heyday eating these smolts. And of course, then the smolts are confused because they were never programmed genetically to navigate through dams and get downriver. So about 80% of them die before they ever even get to sea. And then, of course, when they spend their time at sea and they come back to spawn, only about under 5% of them make it. And they need 6% sort of sustainable population. So they're right on the verge of extinction, and I am right on the verge of doing everything in my power to help that not happen. It's a movement, should I say, that's gaining momentum. It's beginning to gain political acceptance, only because the winds, politicians test the wind, and there's becoming more and more acceptance of it. So it's my goal to use my art, weaponized for the fish. Right. I do stickers. I do this oar project. I don't profit from this oar project at all, other than
right. And that's the thing with all of the other folks that were actually participating in the project. They actually did volunteer their artwork.
Yeah, we all donated the art for the fish. So
that's right.
It's a kind of wealth that's way better than money. I get to feel good about what I'm doing. So I use my art, of course, and we auction off my paintings at Idaho Rivers United functions, and I do stickers, and we use it for their promotional materials and so on. And I'm also a photographer, which leads me to my final career now in life, my fourth one. I'm an artist. I just do watercolor paintings, mostly landscape, rivers, wilderness, places I love. Idaho Rivers United is all about that. They are opposing massive open pit mine projects that are going to really damage the rivers and really damage the wilderness and so on. So that's kind of the Idaho Rivers United. We're a growing organization right now. We've really stepped it up on the professionalism and got a new, very articulate executive director, Greg. And Greg is, God, he's good. He's good. And he's got us all fired up. So we're adding to the board. We're just going to really give it heck in terms of trying to save these fish and save that river. Another interesting thing is those lower four dams hide something like 63, I understand, major rapids.
Right. That's what we're seeing on the Klamath is that, there's, besides the fact that you're floating through these two reservoirs, you're actually going through some whitewater that was not obtainable 100 years, for the last 100 years because of these two reservoirs that were there. And it's phenomenal because it also, it has great whitewater incredible scenery. I mean, the land formations down there, it's like, it's a hidden treasure. And actually right now it's probably the closest whitewater rafting trip to Ashland, Oregon, where it's a major tourist attraction. And so it's literally something that several people have the ability to enjoy and test out all this different waters that we have to offer, and working with various outfitters that are trying to figure it out. You know, it runs like a spring river. They're just trying to dial in what flows are ideal for what, but it's really this transformational piece. So we're experiencing that happening in our backyard. We've actually seen dams removed here on the road that we're on today, and the Klamath, and it's just kind of a continuing trend. So we're happy to see that happen.
You know, along that line, those dams were pretty much all about electricity, creating hydro, and they were privately owned. And so at the end of the day, it came down to those large private entities finally caving in and letting it happen. The problem we have with the lower 4 dams on the Snake, they're owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. And of course, one of the key people in the Army Corps of Engineers said something profound. We're not in the business of removing dams, we're in the business of building them. And those dams specifically, why would we take them out? Well, they generate very little electricity because they were not designed to be hydro dams. They were designed to be locks for a Floyd Domine dream of an inland port in Lewiston, Idaho. The inland port in Lewiston, Idaho is being used at about 5% of the level that was originally pro-formed to justify building the dams. So they really are not high producers. In fact, numbers I've seen say for every dollar that we put in as ratepayers and taxpayers, we get about 15 cents of value back. So they're a big drain. They're super efficient fish killers. They're a mistake. Humanity made a mistake, and it's time to fix it. So that's what I'm working on. It's the low-hanging fruit of being good humans.
Right.
Do the right thing.
Yeah, and so anybody that wants to get involved, if you are looking for a new pair of oars and you do buy a pair of Artisan square tops, 5% of purchase of those oars goes to a river cause, and we're switching over to the cause will be Idaho Rivers United. So if you're interested in that, please check out our website at paddlesandoars.com and get out on the water with some Artisan square top. Let's go forward, Link. So, Link, is there anything that we haven't covered for Idaho's Rivers United or the Artisan series that you can think of that let folks know?
Gosh, I'm running out of story because that's the big 10,000 foot up look so far.
There you go.
Some of the specific projects that Idaho Rivers United is really focusing on is a big open pit mine up by Stibnite, Idaho, that would potentially produce cyanide pollution into the Johnson Creek and the east fork of the south fork of the salmon, which could affect millions of fish, and water quality, and of course the obvious, which is destruction of a large piece of real estate. There's another big 20-mile square open pit mine being proposed over in northeastern Idaho. That is, these mine projects are proposed by foreign companies that are many layers deep in sub-entities that, traditionally have gone in and done the mining, and when something goes wrong, they declare bankruptcy and disappear. I sound like I'm anti-mining or something, and I'm not. I'm anti-mining in super, super sensitive areas with really super destructive methods. And that's what's being proposed. And so we are, of course, opposing it vigorously. There's other things going on, like, for example, the Clearwater Forest they're delisting 70 some odd streams that were basically going to be put into the Wild and Scenic Rivers program, and they're delisting them, which of course means develop. It means probably logging and mining and all that sort of stuff, some of which will be good, some of which don't be so good. And we're not necessarily opposing that completely, because we are an organization that has no party, we have no political agenda, other than we love rivers and we love wild places.
Absolutely.
In the spirit of Teddy Roosevelt, who was a hardcore old moose party Republican kind of guy that said, we do not do something, every rock will be mine and every tree will be cut. And that's just human nature. So we gotta be smart about this going forward, because we're running out of resources to protect. And that's really what Idaho River United is all about. And we have supportive companies like Patagonia and some others. In fact, our very first benefactor was Yvon Chouinard. He doesn't like any credit for that, but he supports these sorts of causes. He doesn't just talk about it, he does it. And I just ask anybody interested to do the same. Get involved. Life is short. Let's save this for the future generation.
Appreciate it, Link, and thanks everybody for tuning in to this episode of Sawyer's On Water podcast. If you like this podcast, share it with a friend, share it with your family members, share it with your river community and your network. And if you get a chance, get out there and explore the rivers around your areas. Get out on the river. Remember, be patient, be calm, and we will see you on the river.
And use Sawyer paddles and oars.